Yesterday, the president said that having a Liberal prime minister would be easier for him to deal with.
The Liberal guy,
I love his wife.
The Liberal Party is going to win now in the next election, most likely. And they were down and out. Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a Liberal than a
for China?
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation calls on party leaders to end the pension granted for Canadian prime ministers. Donald Trump endorses the Liberals, and Pierre tells everybody why.
Let's take a look.
Trudeau's collecting two pensions worth $8.4 million. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is calling on all party leaders to commit to ending the second pension for prime ministers. Quote, taxpayers can't afford to pay for all the perks in Ottawa, and the government should start saving money by ending the Prime Minister's second taxpayer-funded pension, end quote, said Franco Terrazzano, CTF director. Quote, Prime Ministers already take a salary nearly 6 times more than the average Canadian, and they already get a lucrative MP pension, so taxpayers shouldn't be on the hook for a second pension for Prime Ministers, end quote. Trudeau will collect 2 taxpayer-funded pensions in retirement. Combined, those pensions total $8.4 million, according to CTF estimates. First, there's the MP pension. The payouts for Trudeau's MP pension will begin at $141,000 per year when he turns 55 years old. It will total an estimated $6.5 million should he live to the age of 90. Then there's the Prime Minister's pension. Quote, a Prime Minister who holds the office of Prime Minister for at least 4 years is entitled to receive a special retirement allowance in addition to their Members of Parliament pension benefit, end quote, according to the Government of Canada. The payouts for Trudeau's Prime Minister's pension will begin at $73,000 per year when he turns 67 years old. It will total an estimated $1.9 million should he live to the age of 90. Add the $6.5 million MP pension to the $1.9 million Prime Minister's pension, and Trudeau will collect a total of about $8.4 million. The Prime Minister's current annual salary is $406,200. Trudeau's pension payouts would be even higher if not for reforms implemented in 2012, which increased the retirement age, cut benefits, and saw MPs increase their own contributions. Prior to the reforms, MPs contributed just $1 for every $24 of taxpayer and federal monies invested in their pensions.
And who made that reform?
Stephen Harper, of course. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper forfeited an estimated $1 million to $2 million in additional payouts by implementing the reforms. Nevertheless, the CTF estimates Harper's lifetime pensions would total about $7 million. Quote, a Prime Minister already takes millions through their first pension. They shouldn't be billing taxpayers more for their second pension, end quote, Terrazzano said. Quote, taxpayers need to see leadership at the top, and all party leaders should commit to ending the second pension for future prime ministers, end quote.
Now, some people in the political realm will argue, well, you need a good perk for the prime minister to attract people to run for prime minister. But
I would say perhaps in the past that might be true, because I think the office of Prime Minister was kind of held in high regard, and it was kind of like lavish almost. I think it was a lot higher regarded than it is now. And I think if you want to attract good people to that position, you need to have a good benefits package for them. You need to make sure that they're taken care of. I mean, we don't want our prime minister for our country to then be turned out at the end of his term and go and live among the common folk. Or at least I suspect that's why this was implemented many years ago in the first place. Now, I think Stephen Harper saw that, hey, this is really expensive. Why are taxpayers paying for this? And changes were made. I think you could argue that perhaps not enough changes were made. And I would argue personally that under the Liberal government, instead of taking taxpayers' money and investing it back into the country, why not get rid of your own second pension to balance the books? If you're so what's the right word? You're so adamant that these programs that you're investing in are going to be good for Canadians, well, why don't you put your money where your mouth is, get rid of your second pension and the second pension for all the prime ministers that come after you, and invest that money back into the country?
Well, that'll be the question for the next parliament whenever that resumes. In the meantime, in order to get there, we still have to go through a federal election, and we have Donald Trump continuing to comment on this. So this is what he said a couple days ago.
They charge us numbers that are crazy. We have a very big deficit with Canada, and there's no reason, much more. We have much more. Just so you understand, we subsidize Canada, and I like Canada. I love Canada. I love Wayne Gretzky.
The Liberal guys,
I love his wife.
The Liberal Party is going to win now in the next election, most likely. And they were down and out. Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a Liberal than a
for China, closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The Conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a Liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
So your end game is what with them?
My end game is I don't want to have a big deficit. I don't want to see the United States of America, and you say 60 and I say 200, but it doesn't matter. I don't want us to pay 60 or $200 billion to a country that if they were a state, think of this, it would be our biggest, most beautiful, it would be great. This state, it would be cherished. We'd take care of it. The people would pay half what they're paying right now. Canada pays very little for defense. They think we're going to defend them.
We protect them.
What?
We protect them.
We protect them.
Okay. So there's a bunch in there.
Yeah.
Number one, Trump keeps saying they subsidize Canada to the tune of $60 billion.
He doesn't seem to understand what a trade deficit is. It's not a subsidy. You're not just giving Canada money for fun. You are buying more goods from Canada than Canada's buying from you.
Well, and that entire deficit comes from one place and one place only. Oil. We sell, 4 million barrels a day of oil, something like that, to the United States. And that's a special oil that's diesel oil. And that allows them to make diesel gasoline, allows them to power all their trucks and military and all of this stuff. They need all that oil. And they actually need us to increase that. So, Trump will go on and say, we don't need their energy. We don't. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And just because companies, not the United States, companies are buying this oil, he's saying, well, the United States is, you're not sending anything to Canada. The United States is. Now.
Well, and I mean, the United States has 10 times our population, so you would just kind of expect that they would buy more goods from us than we would from them because we have, again, 10% of their population.
Now, the other thing to consider is that he is right when he says that, we spend virtually nothing on our military compared to them. Now, the United States spends more on their military than, the next 5 or 10 countries combined, something like that. But we have become so lax in our military spending that, we have been that lazy friend who hangs around and doesn't pay rent because they know that their buddy is going to pay rent to keep the apartment. That's basically us when it comes to military spending. So there is a very good point to be made on that. And it's interesting, his comments when he says, I'd rather work with the Liberals. And Pierre, that guy, he said some not nice things about me, so he's stupidly not my friend. Anyway, before we comment on that, let's get to Pierre's reaction.
On President Trump. Speaking of whom, yesterday the president said that having a Liberal prime minister would be easier for him to deal with. just as he threatened once again to make us the 51st state. And you know what? On that point, it's true. I'm a strong leader. I'm a tough guy to deal with. I'm firm in my convictions, and I'll always put Canada first. By contrast, in 10 years, the Liberals have blocked resource projects, hiked taxes, and driven $500 billion of investment to the U.S., all while Mark Carney moved his corporate headquarters out of Canada to New York, bringing jobs to the United States of America. Mark Carney will back down, and his Liberal policies will keep Canada weak, just like Trump wants. Giving the Liberals a fourth term will only weaken our country and strengthen Donald Trump. We need a strong, tough leader who will unleash our resources, cut taxes and red tape, build homes, and make our economy less reliant on the Americans to put Canada first.
So you can debate whether or not Donald Trump is serious or not. I believe him when he says he doesn't care. I do. But I think his advisors care who is actually elected in Canada. His advisors are no doubt telling him, sir, it's going to be much better for us to do business with Canada if a conservative government is in.
Right, because you won't have all these ridiculous green energy laws.
Right. And it's going to be easier to negotiate, and you're talking business and business. Both countries want to dig into their resources. Both countries want to extract more raw material and profit from that and build. So it's much easier to build together when you have governments of the same, call it, vision. Now, Mark Carney keeps saying, well, we're going to build Canada. Well, how are you going to do that, Mark? How are you going to do that when you're not going to greenlight any mines?
Well, who needs mines? Canadians don't need steel. Canadians don't use steel. So,
yeah.
What do you need minerals for?
And you don't like oil. You don't like gas. You don't like LNG. So what are you going to build Canada with? That's the magical question. He wants to put a carbon tax on steel because apparently nobody buys steel anymore. So again, Mark, what are you going to build Canada with? You keep saying you want to build it with what? If you don't actually take anything out of the ground, if you don't manufacture anything, then you have nothing to build Canada with. So your entire platform is empty.
Well, I will say that on this quote-unquote endorsement from Trump, I think it's absolutely hilarious. You look at the internet when Elon Musk had come out and endorsed Pierre Poilievre, if you even want to call it that. The left was pointing fingers and freaking out and saying, look at this guy Pierre, blah, blah, blah. And now that Trump has come out and spoken positively about the Liberal government...
Crickets.
Well, no, it's not crickets. They're freaking out, but in the opposite way. So, is it really the candidate's fault that some American is endorsing them?
Right.
If it's Pierre Poilievre, obviously it means that Pierre Poilievre is tied to Elon Musk in some way and blah, blah, blah. Who knows what theories they were throwing around. But now that the president of the United States is saying that it's easier to work with a Liberal government... well, that's not right, and he can't say that, and this and that, and just the ridiculousness that you see online.
Well, and, it's going to creep in. It's going to creep into the minds of some of the Liberal voters saying, well, maybe Mark Carney isn't the right choice. Maybe Mark Carney, if Donald Trump wants to deal with him, maybe he's not the negotiator that he says he is.
I think it will sway the minds of some of these swing voters. But as we've said in the past, that there will be some people who, when Trudeau is no longer prime minister, will hop back on the Liberal bandwagon and will stay there. And that's what's happening. Right.
But it's an interesting comparison. But I think Pierre is playing this exactly the right way. I think it was predictable the way he was going to play it, but he's playing it right. He's saying, yeah, of course Donald Trump wants to deal with the Liberals because he's going to be able to take advantage of them like he has for the last 4 years when he was in office. So he's like, he doesn't want to deal with me because I'm going to be more difficult to deal with. and I'm going to actually, stand up to him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But hope everybody is holding on to their hats, because as of next week, from all reports, we're in election mode.